Good morning, ladies. It is Tuesday morning and I'm on the way to work. Um, so this morning I wanted to go into my miscarriage story. And it's coming up on a year since it happened. And as I'm going into, just trying to get in shape and get ready to move forward with my fertility journey, I just wanted to kind of reflect on my past and share with you ladies what that experience was like for me. So, as I stated before, last year around this time, I had been on the ketogenic diet for about 5 months. So, and at that time, I was also going to the gym about 3 times a week. I had lost about 30 pounds, and I think my weight, I was at like 244 or 246. So my dad, the anniversary of my dad's death is coming up this week. It is October 30th, so it was the day before Halloween. We had found out that he had passed. So actually, I'm about a week away from when I found out that I was pregnant. So yeah, he had died, and it was the following week. And my mother-in-law was actually in the hospital in Washington, D.C. She was getting ready to undergo a triple bypass. So going backwards a little bit, I had actually had my period in September, and then there was no issues with that. I remember one incident, and it was 2 days before Halloween, and my husband is like a Halloween fanatic. Like, that is his favorite holiday. You would think like it's the Super Bowl for him. Every year he has to have his costume together, he has to have everything ready. So we were out and we were going around trying to get stuff for that, and I just remember being really, really irritable. Just more irritable than usual. Everything was getting under my skin. I was kind of snappy. And we were in a store and I just snapped on him in front of everybody. And so, like, he was really upset with me about it, and I felt really bad about it after the fact. And I just remember thinking, like, oh my goodness, why am I feeling this way? So then I kind of brushed it off. So then, following that, I actually started bleeding again. So like 2 weeks after my period, I started bleeding, and it was like light spotting. But I assumed it was a period because there was enough blood for, TMI, sorry. There was enough for me to feel like it was a period, but my periods usually last 5 to 7 days, and this was 3 days. So I remember at the time telling my coworkers what happened, and then I was also having some soreness on the side of my breast. So, which is really like abnormal for me. Like I don't at the time I didn't get a lot of symptoms in my body. And again, I think that was a result of the PCOS, and just my hormones are usually really out of whack. So I don't get a lot of PMS symptoms. Like, my period will either not come or just come, and then it's there and then it's gone. But anyways, I bled twice that month. So I remember telling them, like, wouldn't it be crazy if I was actually pregnant? And so they were like, well, maybe you should get a test. And I'm like, no, that's like, I've done this before. I've been testing for years, and I actually had given up. Like, I knew that I needed to lose weight to do IVF, and in my mind, there's no way that I'm going to get pregnant. But mind you, this was after I had my left tube removed And the doctor told me at that time that tube may have been interfering with embryos, trying to implant into my uterus. So I brushed my coworkers off, and then I talked to my sister and was telling her kind of the same thing. And she was like, well, maybe you should take a test. So that was on a Friday. I left work, went to the store, and I bought a clear blue test. And it's one of those ones that have like the regular test and then the digital test in the box. So I put it in my bathroom and went through the rest of the night. We actually ended up going to DC to see my mother-in-law in the hospital, because this was about 2 days before her procedure, but they were keeping her there to monitor her. So on the way, we went to this burger place in DC called TKO Burger. It's off of Rhode Island Avenue, and it's actually owned by the owners of a place called Carolina Kitchen. And if you've been to DC or you live in Maryland, Carolina Kitchen is like so good. It's soul food, and it's just phenomenal. So anyways, we went to the burger place that's next door, owned by the same franchise. But and at the time, like I said, I've been doing keto for 5 months, and I could tell you on one hand how many times I've cheated or even nibbled on something I shouldn't have had. Like, I was laser focused, which is why I was so successful. Because in my mind, I'm like, anything I'm going to eat is going to throw me out of ketosis, and we are not doing that. Like, we are losing this weight. And I was weighing myself every day. Like, I was meticulous. So we're sitting there, and my husband's food was ready first. And again, I remember feeling really, really irritable, like just so irritable for no reason. And so he opened up his container and he had French fries. And the aroma of these fries, like, I lie to you not, like, it was like a cartoon where like the smoke comes up off of the food and goes into my nose. And I just had like an animalistic urge to eat these fries, like I've never had in my life. So I just started like nibbling on these fries, and I'm devouring these fries, and I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm totally breaking on this plan. What's going on? Like, this is crazy. So continue on with the night. We go see my mother-in-law, and then we go back home. And so fast forward Saturday morning, my husband left to go and get us breakfast. So, and I had already had a first morning urine. I wasn't even thinking about taking a test. I was like, whatever. So when he was gone, this was around like 11 o'clock in the morning, I said, okay, well, I have to go to the bathroom again, so let me just go ahead and take a test. And I'm thinking, like, I'm literally just doing it because, sometimes we go out, we'll have a drink, and I just want to know. And especially since I bled twice in this month, and that is like not usual for me at all. So I go in the bathroom and I dip the stick and I put it down. And like, I'm used to like, I'm a reformed pee on a stick addict, and I'm used to like looking at it in different types of light and moving all around my apartment trying to get at the best angle to see what's going on. Literally like 10 seconds, boom, positive, like darkest blue ever. And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm literally like cursing, I'm pacing, I'm going up and down the hallway outside my bedroom, just staring at this test like, what the F, what the F, what the F, like just shocked, shook. I couldn't believe it. And so then I'm like, okay, there's a digital in here. Let me take this digital, because I know like digitals, like you have to have a higher concentration of HCG in your urine in order to get a positive on a digital. Dip the digital, boom, pregnant. And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, I texted my best friend a picture. I didn't even say anything. And then I texted my sister, and I called her, and she was like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, oh, have you looked at your phone? And she usually picks up with her earpods. So she's like, no, I haven't looked. And so I'm not saying anything. I'm like, just go look. So then she's like, oh my God. Like, we're all freaking out. So then I'm trying to decide, okay, how am I going to tell my husband? But literally, like, I'm like trying to calm myself down because I'm like freaked, and I'm like, he's going to be back any minute. So I calm myself down, and it's taking everything in me to act normal. And on the inside, I'm like screaming. And then at the time, the place where I worked on Saturdays from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. So I knew I had to go to work that day. So I ended up texting my coworker, and because she was going to work a shift with me, and I'm literally getting to work, and I am like floating on air. I was so happy. And I'm thinking, my dad just passed, and I'm just like, this is God. This is my dad. Like, I'm really a very, like, spiritual person, and I believe that, I believe that God and the universe, like, moves things around for us and sends us messages. And so I'm always, like, talking to God, and I'm always talking to my parents, and at that time, parents who passed on, and just looking for signs that I'm on the right path and that I'm doing the right things. So, this happening was just like, oh my God, like, this is God, this is my family, like, this is like everything I've ever wanted, and it's just a light in the darkness. Like, all the loss, all the pain, this was something to hold on to, and I did. So 11 o'clock, I get off of work, and I get home, and I get in bed, and then my husband, he had gone out with his friends, and so he came in like maybe 30 minutes after I got home. And so he gets in bed, and he's like, did you ever take that pregnancy test that you bought? Now, my husband, he's like, sometimes he's like psychic. He knows what I'm doing, but he'll kind of let me maneuver what I'm doing, and then he'll like ask me about it. So I was like, okay, so he knows I'm not slick. So I pulled it out from where I had it hidden, and I showed it to him, and he's like, what's this mean? And I'm like, you know what it means. And he's like, did we do that? Like, we're both just in shock, like shook, looking at this freaking test in bed. And the next day, his mom was gonna have her surgery. So we said, you know what, we're gonna tell her before she goes under. She would love this news, and we're just gonna let her know, and we're gonna pray over her, we're gonna pray over this baby, and it's all gonna be good. So and it was funny because like the next day, literally, like all the pregnancy symptoms, like the cravings, the nausea, like all of it just came for us. So the next day, the day of her surgery, I took a pregnancy test again that morning, and it was even darker. And so I'm like, okay, this is good. Like, this baby is growing strong, And at that point, I figured that I wasn't sure how far along I was. But I figured I might be between like 4 to 5 weeks. We told her, she was over the moon. We told his daughter, who was 19 at the time. And so we're all just so happy. We're floating on air. I remember going to the chapel with my husband in the hospital, and we prayed over our baby. We prayed for his mom. And just really trying to like take it all in, but just show our gratitude for the blessings that we were getting. So his mom came through, she recovered, things are going well, and I'm telling everybody at work, just because everybody knew my dad had just died, and I was in such a low place. Like, this was such a high thing for me that I needed everybody who would listen to know. And I know people say don't tell people, but even looking back, like the support that I got, I'm not one of those people who likes to suffer in silence. I don't do well with that. Like, I need the support. I need the connection. I need people in my corner. And especially when your parents are gone, like, it's like a safety net and the world is gone. And you just need people to, like, surround you. So, I still stand by my decision to tell everybody what was going on. So anyways, I'm going about my day, going about my life, and this was a Friday, about a week after that. So I had I had a week of bliss. I was at work. I was getting ready to leave work, and I noticed, I went to the bathroom, and there was like a spot, a little bit of blood. And I know that, like, spotting is normal in pregnancy. So at first, I was a little bit apprehensive about it, but I didn't think too much of it. I called my sister. She's like my advice guru, especially when it comes to like fertility stuff, because she's had her own infertility issues, and she's been pregnant before. So I said, okay, and she was like, okay, well, what does it look like? Don't worry about it. And so I scheduled a doctor's appointment at an OB/GYN. I'd never been to her myself for like testing, but I established a relationship with her in 2017 when I was doing IVF, because I had switched to a new plan, so I needed a new doctor. And I went and I met with her. I told her what I was doing with IVF, and so she was like, well, there's nothing for us to do right now, but once you get pregnant, come back, and then you can come back for your annual exams. So fine, perfect. So I had an appointment to go see her for that Monday. So it's Friday evening. I get home, and then I just start having that feeling, that feeling down in your uterus or cervix when you're about to get your period. And I'm like, this doesn't feel right. This feels like I'm about to have like a heavy bleed. And so this was around like 6 o'clock. Around like 9 o'clock at night, I started to bleed a little bit heavier. And I'm like, yeah, this feels like a period. Like, this is not good. So I decided to get up and go to the emergency room. So I got to the emergency room, and they did a sonogram and they did some blood work. And if anybody will tell you, when you're doing a sonogram and you're trying to see if everything's okay with your pregnancy, like, it is agonizing. And the technician, she's silent. I can't see the monitor. When I asked her about results, she's like, you gotta talk to the doctor. So I'm literally just like, just stressed. So the doctor comes in. She was very, very nice. Nicest emergency room doctor I've ever had. And she's like, your HCG levels were like a 380. She's like, so you're definitely pregnant. She's like, but it's too early to see anything on the sonogram. We didn't see anything. So she's like, there was a little bit of debris, but that could be the formation of something or the ending of something, or it could just be something's irritating, like your uterine wall. So she's like, I recommend you go to the doctor, get another HCG. You'll see if it's rising or falling, and then you can kind of follow up with them on what you need to do. So I said, okay. I left. But in my heart, like, I just knew it was over. I laid in bed most of Saturday morning, and then I had to go to work, which was really agonizing. We had an event at my job, so I had to stay to work until midnight. So I wouldn't be getting home till 1 a.m. And then I was in the bathroom with excruciating cramps and pain most of the shift. I didn't want anybody to have to work my shift for me, and I'm just that type of person. Like, I'm gonna push through no matter what's going on. Like, my work ethic is very important to me. and I always want to be seen as reliable, and sometimes that's a detriment to me personally because I don't take good care of myself. And I had a coworker who knew what was going on, and she offered to stay, but I told her to go ahead and go. But I just remember crying in my office, and just saying, like, why, God? Like, why won't you let me have this? And why do I keep getting kicked when I'm already down? Like, I literally just lost my father. Like, this was such a high. Like, why even give me this high just to knock me off? And I can admit now that I've been resentful, angry, and bitter at the world. And yeah, so it's something that I have tried to work through over the last year. But so moving on, so I ended up going to my OBGYN, and she didn't even touch me. I mean, they took my weight and they took my blood pressure, and she came in and she asked me what was going on, and I told her, what had happened at the emergency room. And her response, just point blank, was, well, at least you got pregnant. And so she's like, well, let's go get blood work, let's get your HCG. And then she said, and come back in 2 days and we'll get blood work again. So I went and got the blood work, and I came back. Now, mind you, let me go back to when I first came to this doctor's office, because mind you, I had been there a year prior with IVF, and I had scheduled this appointment to be my first pregnancy appointment. And so I get to the office, and the receptionist is like, yeah, you're here for your pregnancy, right? And I said, actually, I think I'm having a miscarriage. And I kid you not, she didn't even look up. She was like, well, you owe $50 from the last time you were here. So mind you, right there, I'm like, okay, I'm already in the mood, I'm just gonna disregard. And then a side note, there's a sign next to her that says there's a $25 fee for dealing with your attitude. So I'm looking at where I'm at, and I'm a little annoyed because I have the highest tier plan. I pay $500 a month just for me and my husband to have insurance. Like, I'm not I work hard for my insurance benefits, and so to be treated like I'm getting a free service or like I'm a charity case was just, and even a charity case shouldn't be talked to like that. Like, there was no compassion. So back to the doctor, with her, at least you got pregnant statement. It was just disheartening. So did the blood work, I left. The next day I got an email that the blood work came in. I could check it online, and it said that my numbers were at a 300, so the numbers are falling from the emergency room numbers. But this was the first numbers with this doctor. So waited another day, went back, did the blood work. I was thinking, okay, I'm going to talk to the doctor because now we have two numbers. We know it's going down, and I can get some type of advice because I've never been through this before. Like, this is all new to me. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to look for. Is there any danger? Is it ectopic? Like, I just don't know anything. So I go back, I do the blood work. They walk me back to the front, and I said, okay, so what now? And they're like, you're done. So I said, well, can I see the doctor, please? So then I got questions about, what do you want to see her about? And I'm like, well, I'm going through a miscarriage, and I'd like to talk to her about it. So I waited around for about 20 minutes, sitting in a lobby full of pregnant women, and I'm going through this loss, and I'm just trying to hold it together. And so I finally get called back to her office, And she's at her desk and she's fumbling around, and she looks up and she's like, "You wanted to see me?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I noticed that from the emergency room to the last blood work, my numbers are going down." And she's like, "Yeah, it's a miscarriage." And I said, "Okay, so what happens now?" And she's like, "Well, we'll test you and follow the numbers down." And I said, "Okay, so when should I come back?" And she's like, "I don't know." I'm like, "Okay." So maybe 2 or 3 days? And she's like, "Yeah, I guess." And she's like, "But again, at least you got pregnant." And so I was like, "Okay." Yeah. I was like, "Yeah, this has been really hard for me. Thanks for seeing me. My dad just died, and I'm really, this is just another thing." And she's like, "Wow, life's really piling on you." Yeah. So, but I'll be seeing you. And I'm like, "Okay." Just the level of, just ambivalence, or not, I don't even know if that's the right word, but just, there was no care in her voice, no care in her body. She didn't even pretend. She didn't even try to pretend that she cared in any way. Which was like, on some level, it was very, very upsetting at the time. Now I'm grateful, because if I do get pregnant, I don't want that woman anywhere near me or my unborn child. Because you're not going to be detail oriented. You're not going to make sure we're safe. You're not going to look out for us in any way, shape, or form. And I don't want that. So, I really believe that things happen to illuminate other areas of your life, or to help you. And even in a bad situation, there's something's working for your good, even if you can't see it. And I think that happened to tell me this woman's not safe. She's not a good doctor, and she's not what you need caring for you during, one of the most important things that's ever going to happen in your life. So, I ended up going to find another doctor, and I ended up, following my numbers down. It took about 3 weeks for everything to leave my system, and then I had to go and, tell everybody that I wasn't going to have a baby. So it's been a process. It's been a year. It doesn't hurt as much anymore. I'm more looking towards the future than I am looking back. But it is something that's happened. And so, I am going to be working on a rainbow baby this time. After the loss, after the storm, there's a rainbow. And I do look forward to that. So, yeah, that's my story. If you like this video, please click the like button. Please subscribe. Please join me on my journey for my rainbow baby. And, I look forward to hearing you ladies' stories, and let me know if you have your own channel, and I can follow you as well. All right. I'll talk to you later.